Hello everybody, today I'm working on a pair of Mezlan Linea, and you can see they're perforated suede two-tone derbies, and it just seems to be only the right shoe that's got some cracking that I'm going to see what I can do with. Okay, so let's go. Hello everybody, it's Robert Powers.
4.5 out of 5.
My shoe collection. Some stains there. Got a nice lather. Here is the finished product.
I'm not a professional.
How tight this is though.
You can see it very clearly here. I just cut the thread.
So here it goes. Now that's a proper mirror shine. They're both done. Doesn't it look awesome? Today I'm working on a pair of Mezlan Lineas. This is a two-tone derby and a pretty interesting shoe. Here you can see the perforated suede on the top, full grain leather, and you can see the problem with the right shoe here. It's got some pretty severe cracking. There's a pretty large deep crack here at the front of the vamp, you know, where the shoe flexes. It's got some smaller cracking right in front of that, and if we move back here around the shoe, you can see there's a bunch of little cracks. Those are the cracks that are really bothering me, because there's a whole bunch of small cracks here further back on the shoe, and then one more large one behind the ball of a foot. I'm not really quite sure if I'm going to be able to save these, but I'm going to give it my best shot here. These shoes actually were thrifted. If you've seen my 12 best thrifts video, these shoes were thrifted a couple years ago. Oh, there's also a long crack, if you can see that there. It's almost like here maybe the toe got stepped on or something. I think that crack is very shallow, but there's another crack there. But these shoes were thrifted for $4, and so these are at the point at which I kind of have everything to gain and nothing to lose. So I'm gonna, see what I can do with them. And the first step I think is actually gonna, I'm just doing a little testing here on the sanding. Before I go too far, I'm gonna take the Sapphire Renomat and I'm gonna strip the wax off. But part of my strategy here is I don't just usually make up crap, as far as how I'm going to repair something. Part of my strategy is possibly to try painting over with acrylic paint on some of the cracking. So I've got a bunch of different colors. I picked these up for I think $1.89 a bottle at Walmart. But I got a bunch of different colors to try and match the color. I'm also going to try sanding. And again, I didn't make up this method of sanding. There's a guy on YouTube and on Instagram. On Instagram, he's a bespoke addict, all one word. And on YouTube, he's the bespoke addict, the Brighton gentleman. Brighton is Brighton gentleman. And, he basically is finding a lot of old, very expensive, usually old shoes. A lot of them are in really horrible looking shape, and he restores them. He actually even shrinks them. I'm nowhere near his level, but I'm getting a lot of this from him. So that's where the sanding strategy comes from, because I, have seen him do it successfully, and I've played around with it a little bit. Now, this here is Sapphire Renomat. Renomat is just basically a solvent that's, made especially for stripping the wax, all the surface coloring that's on top of the shoe off of the leather. The Renomat's pretty smelly stuff, so, use it in a fairly well-ventilated area. You can use pretty heavy, pretty high hand pressure here. If you notice, I've got a shoe tree in the shoe to, kind of back it up. It does appear like it darkens it, but as soon as the solvent kind of evaporates out of the leather, that goes away. And you have to keep turning the rag, and you can keep checking it to see when it's working, and when it's pulling stuff off, you'll see where you're rubbing on the rag turn the color. In other words, you'll see the wax transfer onto the rag. Okay, the next step, now that I've got the wax removed from the surface, I've got a couple different grits of sandpaper. This one here is a 150 grit, and I've also got a 400 grit, but I'm going to start with this, and if you notice, I kind of rolled it to get an edge. And I'm going to work on that deeper crack at the back here. Now, this is, as I've told you guys, the reason I leave that little ditty, I'm not a professional, because I'm not. I don't necessarily want to, say, hey, this is how you do it. Now, I'm learning as I go, and one of the things I've learned is that, like here, there's a problem, and you'll see it at the end. There is a problem with the technique I'm doing. You see how I've rolled the sandpaper, and I'm sanding, in other words, deeper into that groove, and it does get rid of most of those smaller scratches, or I'm sorry, the smaller cracks. The problem is I didn't realize how sensitive the surface smoothness of the shoes is to the looks of the shoe. This is what I mean. I've done body work before. I'm an okay amateur, body man. I've painted cars before. And, painting a car is really not that difficult. It's doing the body work on a car. A great paint job, is not the person holding the spray gun and spraying the spray gun. A great paint job comes from great body work, okay? So what happens is when the surface of a body panel is not perfectly flat, then you're creating divots and waves in it that reflect the light at different angles. And that's kind of what you're going to see at the end here is, in essence, right here, I'm kind of creating a divot, a puddle, like a dent almost, okay? So like in this spot where I'm sanding back and forth, that technique is going to work better. The shoe is going to come out greatly improved, but not perfect. And that's one of the main lessons that I'm learning from this. If you watch the Brighton Gentleman's, Lee Morrison's videos, he kind of actually talks about that. And he even explains how cracks move if you really want to go down the rabbit hole and, really learn a lot about this stuff. So, but it's all a learning process. And, the other part of this is, if you're not familiar with the difference between like corrected grain and full grain leather, this is full grain leather. I have put a link in the description below to a couple videos where I talk about the difference. This is important because with corrected grain leather, the leather is basically coated, and I don't know if this kind of repair would be as effective, okay? The exception to that might be is if you are doing a repair on black corrected grain leather, and I say an exception because black might be easier to match acrylic paint to. So again, just to kind of summarize, this kind of repair I think is going to work better on full grain leather that is not coated with a surface coating of plastic or whatever they coat it with, okay? Okay, now here I've mixed up some of the darker brown and the lighter brown acrylic paint, and I'm attempting to fill in some of these small cracks. And again, I'm just trying some different things out. This is an area where there's a lot of finer cracks. My thought process was that maybe I could match up this acrylic paint with the existing tan leather, number one, and number two, this would also help fill up those cracks. And so it did work as far as filling up some of the fine cracks. The part of this that did not work, though, is the color matching. It's just, I don't want to say it's impossible, but I mean, from my books, this is definitely not the way to go, trying to match this paint color with the other color. Paint colors being off just a little bit is so visible to the eye. And as we go forward through this, you'll see the color match just doesn't work. And I wind up actually sanding this stuff back off. So, really no harm, no foul. But anyway, learn by making mistakes.
All right.
Now what you can see happening here is you can definitely see those two spots where I painted over with the acrylic paint, and at this point I'm trying to kind of blend it in with darker polish, the kiwi darker brown shoe polish, but the bottom line here is it just doesn't work. The acrylic paint really doesn't change color when you polish over it because you're trying to polish over paint, whereas the leather does. So what you're going to see here is, as I stated before, I'm going to actually just sand back through and remove the acrylic paint. Now, not 100% of the acrylic paint comes off, and I was okay with that. What happens is some of it actually remained inside the crevices, inside the cracks. Now here the Sapphire Renovator. The Sapphire Renovator is a mink oil based moisturizer, and it's widely regarded as really high quality. And the mink oil is actually taken from, as I've stated in other videos, it's taken actually from the fat that is underneath the skin of minks, and I believe it comes from a byproduct of the the fur industry. So but this stuff is really good stuff, just really working it into the leather. I'm trying to get it down in between the welt, to moisturize all of that leather. And I'm also going to try to get it here around the mouth, I guess the opening of the shoe. And if you really look closely, there's some minor cracking starting around there. I'm not going to bother repairing it, but just going to really try to super moisturize that so that doesn't get any worse. And then I'm also going to do something that I've really started doing in recent months with my shoes, is pulling the shoe tree back out and actually moisturizing the piping around the edge of the shoe and even a little bit of the lining on the inside. Now, can you see here on the outside edge of the shoe there? For some reason, the rubber, I think, has just kind of smushed out. I don't know what the proper term is, but it's kind of expanded just from age and time and the pressure of the heel, and it now kind of overhangs. I don't think the shoe probably came that way. Maybe it did, but I really doubt it. So I'm taking my hooked, it's actually a carpet knife, and I apologize, I got a little bit off camera here, but I'm just very carefully and slowly trimming off that excess rubber to try to make it look a little neater. And here's the finished result. And it's not awesome, it's not perfect, but compared to where we started here, I'll cut in what it looked like when we started. It's not bad. I'm pretty happy with it. It has a couple little splotches, I guess I would call it, there from the really from the acrylic paint. I feel like I just reached a point of diminishing returns, you know, where sometimes you just kind of, I think you just wind up, you keep chasing and chasing and chasing things and sometimes do more damage than good. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, if you'd like to subscribe and hit that like button, feel free to do so. I've got a lot of other videos related to shoes and even some things on suits and some of those kind of things. So, hey, God bless. Have an awesome day. Thanks.